Here is the thing about wrestling botches. They are not just mistakes. They are tiny action movies where the script says superhero landing, but the laws of physics send back a rejection letter. A wrestler climbs the ropes with total confidence. The crowd gets ready. The opponent gets ready. The camera gets ready. And then one ankle says, "Actually, we are going to make this a workplace incident." That is the magic. It is athletic theater with a banana peel hiding under the spotlight. The funniest part is how quickly the crowd becomes a jury. 1 second they are cheering the setup. Next second they are reviewing the foot placement like forensic accountants with foam fingers. And before anybody gets too serious, we admit laughing at real injuries. If somebody is actually hurt, that is not the joke. The joke is the strange middle zone where everyone is technically alive, technically performing, and absolutely losing in negotiation with gravity. Wrestling is built on trust, timing, and commitment. Botches happen when all three turn up to the meeting late, wearing different shoes, and somehow the referee is the only person who brought paperwork. That is why the good botch reel has a weird affection to it. The performers are still impressive. The universe just briefly got creative control. The best botches always start with confidence. You can see it in the body language. The guy on the turnbuckle is not thinking, "This could become a meme." He is thinking, "I am about to create art." Then the jump begins. The knees tuck. The arms spread. The opponent moves half an inch too far, and suddenly it becomes community theater sponsored by Panic. The landing is never what the body expected. The ring looks at him like, "I was just standing here, sir." There is always one frozen frame where the plan is still alive. The mistake has already happened, and the wrestler's face is receiving the news. Rope botches are their own genre because the ropes are supposed to be helpful. They are the wrestling equivalent of a trampoline, a seatbelt, and a jazz instrument. You run into them, they send you back. Simple, except sometimes the ropes become suspicious. They absorb the wrestler, refuse to bounce, and leave a grown professional hanging there like laundry with the championship dream. Nothing humbles a tough guy faster than getting outsmarted by 3 cables and a turnbuckle pad. The best rope botches have that little pause afterward, where everyone silently agrees the rope has heat now and needs to be booked in a grudge match. Tables are even worse because tables in wrestling have union energy. Some nights they break if you breathe near them. Other nights they refuse every assignment. A wrestler crashes through with full dramatic commitment, and the table says, "No thank you. I'm a desk today." That is when the crowd makes the special noise. Not cheering, not booing, just thousands of people realizing the furniture has booked itself stronger than the main event. And when the table does break early, it somehow looks embarrassed. Suddenly 2 wrestlers are standing beside debris like the dessert collapsed before the birthday song. The latter is the table's taller, more dangerous cousin. A ladder botch has 3 acts. Act 1, confidence. Act 2, wobble. Act 3, everyone in the building becomes a structural engineer. The whole arena watches a man climb toward glory on equipment that looks like it was assembled during a power outage. One tiny shake and the match turns into a public safety video with pyro. The ladder is not a prop. The ladder is a character with trust issues. You could almost hear every dad in the audience whispering, "That is not OSHA approved," while still absolutely refusing to look away. One of my favorite botch categories is the mist stomp. It is supposed to look brutal. The opponent is down, the boot comes up, the drama is there, and then the foot lands somewhere in the next zip code. The wrestler still has to sell it, because wrestling requires commitment even when the evidence is on camera in 1080p. So the guy on the mat grabs his chest like he got hit by a truck, while the truck is visibly parked outside. The sell becomes a magic trick. The boot missed, the pain arrived, and nobody wants to ask too many questions about the shipping process. Then there is the invisible clothesline. That is when one wrestler swings, misses by a distance you could rent as a studio apartment, and the other wrestler still flips like he has been deleted from the timeline. It is beautiful because both men are now trapped in the same lie. The attacker has to look dangerous. The defender has to look unconscious. The camera has to pretend it did not just witness air assault. Everybody commits. Nobody is innocent. The crowd always reacts in layers too. First confusion, then laughter, then a strange respect for the victim's willingness to sell a weather pattern. Irish whip botches are special because the move is already based on cooperation. One person throws, the other person runs, and the audience accepts this ancient wrestling physics because we are polite. But when the timing breaks, you can see the system crash. The runner slows down, the thrower points, the opponent forgets which rope is next, and suddenly the entire ring becomes roundabout with no exits. It is a less combat sport, more confused airport shuttle. The Irish whip is basically wrestling's trust fall, except the person falling has to sprint, turn, bounce, and remember which store lane he is in. Referee botches deserve love too. The referee has one job: be invisible until the count matters. But sometimes the ref becomes the most dramatic object in the scene. He walks into the move, blocks the camera, counts the wrong shoulder, or gets trapped in the corner like a substitute teacher during dodgeball. The wrestlers are trying to tell a story, and the referee just wandered in carrying a clipboard called chaos. The truly great ref botches when he realizes it mid-count and his hand hesitates like the operating system is installing updates. The delayed save is another perfect disaster. One wrestler is pinned. The partner is supposed to break it up at the last possible second. The crowd is counting. The referee's hand is descending. The partner starts running from across the ring with the speed of a haunted Roomba. Too late or too early. Either way, the dramatic rescue becomes a customer service complaint. You can almost hear the internal headset. "We needed you yesterday, champion." If he arrives early, the suspense dies. If he arrives late, the finish dies. Tag wrestling is basically synchronized swimming with punches. Tag team botches are basically group projects with elbow pads. The timing has to be clean because 4 people are sharing one illusion. When it works, it looks like a machine. When it fails, it looks like 4 adults all open different instruction manuals. One guy ducks, one guy jumps, one guy waits. One guy has already started selling something that has not happened yet. It is choreography, but the music was replaced by dial-up internet. That is why the best teams are valuable. They are not just doing moves. They are running live traffic control with knees, elbows, and panic avoidance. The hat tag is supposed to be electricity. The crowd rises, the hero crawls, the partner reaches, and the whole building knows the comeback is coming. But a botched hot tag feels like someone unplugged the movie. The hands miss, the referee does not see it. The partner enters anyway. The villain points. The crowd argues. Suddenly, the hottest moment in the match is a debate club with wrist tape. Sometimes the botch is not the move. Sometimes it is the sell. Selling is hard because you have to make imaginary damage feel real, and real awkwardness look intentional. Oversell too much and you look like you got hit by a meteor. Undersell too little and the move looks like a polite suggestion. The greatest accidental comedy happens when a wrestler receives a gentle breeze and reacts like his soul just got evicted. The best oversells are majestic. A punch misses, the head snaps back, the body spins, the legs fly, and for a moment you are no longer watching wrestling. You are watching a man audition to be a falling tree. There is a beautiful commitment to it. The problem is that the camera saw everything. The crowd saw everything. The replay saw everything twice. But the wrestler is still on the floor saying, "Yes, this invisible cannonball was devastating." Underselling has a different flavor. A guy gets launched into a move that should rearrange his weekend, and he pops up like he forgot his keys. The opponent is trying to look like a destroyer, and the victim is accidentally doing customer service energy. This is how feuds start in a locker room, not because someone missed a move, but because someone treated a finishing sequence like a light stretch before yoga. Top rope botches are scary, funny, and educational at the same time. You learn how much trust goes into every aerial move. The flyer has to jump. The catcher has to be in position. The crowd has to believe. The ropes have to behave. The mat has to accept the landing. That is too many employees for one department. When one person clocks out early, the whole thing turns into a group text that says, "Who was supposed to catch him?" Moonsaults might be the greatest high-risk comedy machine ever invented. The wrestler turns his back to the opponent, flips through the air, and tosses geometry to do customer support. When it works, it is art. When it misses, it is a person throwing himself at an appointment that got cancelled. The landing always has a sound, not just a thud, a punctuation mark. The ring says, period. The crowd says, oh no. The internet says, save clip. Springboard moves are even more disrespectful because they involve borrowing energy from the ropes. You step, bounce, twist, and launch. Unless the rope is damp, loose, cursed, tired, or simply not in the mood. Then the move starts as superhero cinema and ends as a man discovering a new way to sit down. Nothing in wrestling changes a face faster than realizing, midair, that the rope has betrayed the family. The apron is the hardest part of the ring, and wrestlers love pretending it is a reasonable place to do business. Every apron botch looks like a bad idea that brought a witness. One foot slips, one hand misses, one person rolls the wrong way, and suddenly the crowd is reacting like the ring just filed a complaint. The apron does not care about your storyline. The apron is there to collect receipts. Then there are barricade spots. The plan is simple. Toss a human toward the crowd barrier and create chaos. But the barrier has opinions. Sometimes it barely moves. Sometimes it explodes. Sometimes the wrestler gets there too early, too late, or with the confused speed of a shopping cart. The result is always funny because everyone in the front row instantly becomes a health and safety inspector with nachos. The announce table is supposed to be the final boss of furniture. It sits there looking official, covered in monitors, waiting to become a sacrifice. But announce table botches are elite because the table either refuses to break or breaks before the move even arrives. 1 second it is part of the broadcast. Next second it is a pile of wires having an existential crisis. The commentators then have to keep talking like their desk did not just retire. Entrances can botch too, and those are underrated. The match has not even started. The music hits. The lights go crazy, the wrestler is supposed to look unstoppable, and then smoke goes the wrong way, pyro fires late, the jacket gets stuck, or the ramp becomes a slip and slide. Nothing is funnier than a monster heel trying to look terrifying while wrestling his own coat like it owes him money. Promo botches are verbal banana peels. A wrestler walks out ready to cook, points at the opponent, and then the mouth opens 1 second before the brain arrives. Names get mixed up. Cities get insulted wrong. Catchphrases crash land. The crowd smells blood immediately. In the ring, a missed flip hurts the body. On the microphone, a missed line hurts the soul. You can recover a move. You have to live with a meme. Crowd interaction botches are dangerous because the crowd is undefeated. If a wrestler forgets a line, the crowd will help by making it worse. If a heel insults the wrong town, the crowd becomes a fact-checking committee. If somebody tries to start a chant and nobody joins, that silence could pin a champion. Wrestling crowds do not need choreography. They need one opening and a group sense of mischief. The funniest production botches are when a camera betrays the magic. A wrestler is hiding for a surprise. The camera finds him. A manager passes something illegal. The camera zooms in like it works for the police. A punch misses by a foot, and the replay truck says, "Let's look again," in slow motion. Production is supposed to protect the illusion, but sometimes production becomes the snitch with excellent lighting. Slow motion makes botches worse in the best way. At full speed, the brain is generous. Maybe that connected. Maybe the landing was clean. Maybe the table broke fine. Then slow motion arrives like a courtroom exhibit. You see the daylight between fist and face. You see the foot slip before the jump. You see the opponent waiting with the patience of a light at the DMV. Slow motion is not a replay. It is a confession. But here is the part people forget. The reason botches are funny is that wrestling is incredibly hard. The job is to perform danger, protect another human, hit timing, face cameras, listen to the crowd, remember the match, and somehow make it all look spontaneous. Most of us trip walking into a room with no pyro. These people are doing live stunt theater in boots while being shouted at by 10,000 amateur coaches. That is why a small timing mistake can look massive. Wrestling is a chain reaction. If the first lockup is off, the footwork changes. If the footwork changes, the rope angle changes. If the rope angle changes, the catch changes. If the catch changes, the landing changes. The botch is not always one person's fault. Sometimes it is the entire match slipping on a timing banana peel in perfect sequence. You can usually spot the veteran after a botch. The rookie panics with his whole body. The veteran repairs the match while pretending the repair was the plan. He grabs a headlock, talks quietly, resets the position, and gives the audience a face that says, yes, this weird detour is part of the premium experience. That is Ring IQ, not avoiding chaos, but making chaos pay rent before it leaves. Some botches accidentally become